What is a woman?
I'm going to put it on repeat. You do not have to have a to identify as a woman. Brad, do not interrupt a black trans woman when she's speaking. If she commits the crime of what you said, she should be locked up in a women's prison, plain
Even if
as
she
day.
still has...
Yes, even if she does, when we're talking about trans women, you have to talk about gender identity. That
And you
has
also have
be
to
the
talk
point.
about biological sex. Why do
But
we not
we can
just talk about biological sex, but we get to talk about gender identity?
But if you really want to whine and talk about that, we could do that, honey. You are a gay, white, cis man. So you sit at the top of the hierarchy in the LGBT community. you sit at the top of the hierarchies, honey.
Hey guys, welcome to B-Day, Blossom Day.
Yeah, it's the day. We're ready to go.
Thank you to all who support
Blossom
us
is waiting in the corner, ready to fight.
to make this
Powerhouse.
happen. And we are about to have a wide-ranging conversation with our guests. And then we are going to post our live reaction, unfiltered, after we record everything. Clarkson and I are going to do a separate video where we will
Just break down.
Just
We're
chat.
just going to kiki. We're
we'll
gonna
tell
kiki
you the
like we
behind the
normally
scenes
would.
tea and everything, but that will only be for members. Though all the actual Blossom content will be public. So please enjoy.
We're allowed me, I'm speaking. Do not interrupt a black trans woman when she's speaking. Hi.
Hello?
Blossom. She, her, hers powerhouse. I think Donald Trump should stop booty clapping to Elon Musk. I'm an extraordinary black trans woman, and I deserve to be here. My black trans sisters that are here, I am tired. My blackness should not have to pay for your whiteness. Trans people are not a delusion. Let's make it very clear. We've been here since the beginning of time. We're in your history books. You are in a place, when I say privilege, I'm not saying I feel like a woman, I am a woman. Do not interrupt a black trans woman when she's speaking. Keep it cute, girl. Keep it real cute.
Oh,
Bodyguards
appropriate,
outside,
but the rest
keep
of
it
shit
real
isn't.
cute now.
I see you're still acting stupid, Piers. How are you? Did you miss me?
Love you.
All right, can we
love
stop
you.
this annoying
You
black
love
fest,
you.
please?
Take up space,
Take
baby
it up.
girl.
Come
Take
on,
it.
baby.
Take
Take
the
it.
mic. Take it.
Everybody, we are so excited to be joined by Blossom C. Brown. Blossom, welcome to the podcast.
Well, normal gays. How are y'all?
We're good. We're so excited.
I'm amazing, actually. I'm so excited to have you on. You're a legend on this
Good.
podcast. For better or for
I've
worse.
heard. I've seen some of y'all's videos. I've heard.
Ooh.
No, I'm actually happy to be here, and it's gonna be a vibe. So you know.
Mhm. So to start, can you tell us how you identify?
She, her, hers, powerhouse, and goddess.
Oh, wait, when did you add goddess?
Today.
So how do you use powerhouse in a sentence? You'll be like, Blossom is
Huh?
coming on the podcast. Powerhouse was amazing.
No, I
think
just
you
say
should.
Blossom is a powerhouse. That's it. It's
Okay.
just plain and simple. That's what I am, and I identify as what I am.
You know what? Damn straight. Damn straight.
And so you are a trans woman, correct?
Yes, I am.
And what does that mean to you?
I mean, it means empowerment. It means that I'm living in my truth and I'm being who I am. I don't like to get into the semantics of everything, like the whole reducing everything down to like body parts and stuff like that. For me, being a trans woman is an essence. It's an essence that I've been proud of for almost 20 years now. I've been transitioning literally since I was the age of 20, and I will be 40 in October. So, like,
Well, you look good for
yeah.
40.
I was going to say that. Yeah.
Well, thank you, thank you. And so for
But
me,
I
it's
do-
just been.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, Brad, do not interrupt a black trans woman when she's speaking.
I wasn't
Dang.
trying to.
We made it like a minute until we got the catchphrase.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, like, it's just been a blissful journey, and I've had some ups and downs, ins and outs, but yeah, this is just who I am, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
But so, what is a woman?
What is a woman? I knew y'all were gonna ask this question because y'all said y'all was on y'all little YouTube channel.
Wait, we gave it
knew
away.
y'all was
I
gonna
know, we
ask
gave
that.
away
Yeah,
everything.
y'all are so easy. No, I think everybody has many different listen, y'all, I think many people have different definitions of being a woman. I think womanhood is a spectrum. Being a woman is a spectrum. I think there's trans women that exist, there are cis women that exist, there are femmes that exist. And for me, what being a woman is someone who identifies in their femininity, somebody who is an essence of just their well-being of just who they are. I don't reduce things down to having a vagina. You don't have to have a vagina to be a woman. And I know a lot of conservatives are about to blow their gasket by me saying that, but I'm going to put it on repeat. You do not have to have a vagina to identify as a woman.
So, Blossom, if you, and I'm assuming this is true, right? If you're somebody who's a believer in women's rights, who's a believer in feminism and wants to protect women under federal law, for example, with different legal protections or categories, you do need a succinct definition of woman. And if it's not going to be adult human female, which is what you were talking about, like where you'd have to have a female reproductive system, we could say, then you need a definition. And I don't think that in your essence of femininity could really constitute a legal definition to go in a law or something. Do you have something more concrete?
I have a question for you. What is your definition of woman?
Adult human female.
Okay. So for me, being a woman also encompasses gender identity as well, which is inclusive of trans women. And this whole thing about a legal definition of what a woman looks like, being a woman comes in many different sizes, many different shapes, many different forms. All right. And so what I'm just saying is the definition of woman encompasses trans women. Plain and simple. And again, I don't want to get down to reducing this down to body parts. Let's just be clear, y'all. This is a very nuanced conversation. And I think a lot of times when it comes to y'all side of the aisle, y'all don't like to talk about nuance. Y'all are very superficial with a lot of these terms and a lot of these definitions. And I'm being for real, because your definition alone only reduces it down to just being female. That's just plain simple.
Yeah, sorry,
You know what I
Clarkson, you
mean?
have to wait. I'm sorry.
I have so much
Yeah,
to say.
but hold on just a second. But hold on just a second to remind y'all, being trans starts with gender identity. It does not start with biological sex. Because here's the thing. When it comes to a trans woman, there is an incongruency between how she was born and how she identifies. Basically, she bridges the gap. Transition. If there was not If it was just the opposite, then the person would be cisgender and we wouldn't even be having these conversations. So I will always argue that being a woman for a trans woman starts with gender identity. And I do believe that being a woman encompasses also gender identity, not just biological sex.
So the difference in our perspectives is that I do believe trans women are men, but I believe that they have gender dysphoria and should live their life however they want. And if that means living as if they're a woman, I support their freedom and power to do that. But
Do you believe
sure, go
Blaire
ahead.
White is a man? Do you believe your friend Blaire White
Yes.
is a man?
I love her. I support her right to transition, live however she wants. But I do think technically she's a man. Yeah.
Child.
Is
Woo,
that
child.
so I guess the issue that I have for, and I don't think she would even be offended by that if you really narrow
Of
it
course
down
not.
at the end of the day.
She's grifted off that for
Oh,
years.
okay,
So
we'll
of
get
course
to
she wouldn't.
Blaire. We'll get to Blaire later. But so my question is, how about, like, I want to test the
Okay.
limits of this. If you could, because you said like we don't like nuance, but I'm going to challenge you for some nuance, maybe where you could
Sure.
maybe agree. Something like a women's prison, for example. If
Okay.
there is a trans woman, and this has happened in the state of California, if there's a trans woman, so like born with your biological sex as male and then your gender identity is different, who commits a crime, should they be put into a women's prison when they go to jail, Blossom?
Absolutely. They're a woman. It's plain and
Oh, come
simple.
on. But they
And then
could
the
harm
thing
another
is,
woman.
but the thing is, what if the other women harm a trans woman? Like two things could be true at the very same time, and especially if that trans woman is on gender affirming care. Like if she's taking hormone replacement therapy, remember that breaks down the body. So her physical strength is not as strong as what y'all always claim it to be and what y'all like to grift for money off of. Okay, so let's be clear. Let's be quite clear what it really is. And so we don't know that trans woman's agility. We don't know her vitality. Everybody's body chemistry is made up differently. And this is something that I've preached about time and time again. Genetics is biology. Everybody's genetics is not the same. And I need y'all to really understand that. If she commits the crime of what you said, she should be locked up in a women's prison, plain
Even if
as
she still
day.
has a penis?
Yes, even if she does, because if she was locked up in a
She
men's
could use
prison,
it to hurt a
no,
woman.
no. But in a men's prison, I believe she would be in much more danger than she would be in a women's prison. It's
But is
plain
that
and
more
simple.
important? The safety of the
Yes.
trans woman who committed a sex crime is more important than the other female prisoners.
First of all, you can have two things at the very same time. You can care about two things at the very same time. This is where y'all constantly try to make people choose between cis women and trans women. First of all, they're all in prison, which means they all committed crimes. So let's actually acknowledge that, Brad. Second of all, this whole thing of competition to me is one of the most irreputable things that y'all have really tried to spew out. You can care about trans women in prison. You can care about cis women in prison. They should all be looped in together. They all committed a crime. They're all serving their time. And so you don't have to pick and choose between the two. Y'all have used that
Okay.
talking point for the longest.
That's where I
and
disagree.
it's done nothing. Well, we can agree to
I do
disagree on that,
disagree.
and that's fine. And that's fine. But I just want
Okay.
you to know that. You don't have to choose between the two. First of all, I gotta congratulate y'all. Y'all raised the money for me to come here. So I gotta give you
Thank you.
props for the hustle. I respect the hustle. That means y'all stand on business like I stand on business. So I wanted to make sure I say that at the top of the show. Give y'all props for that.
Great.
Yeah, we got you.
You are
Yes.
not cheap, but know your worth, girl.
Oh, you know I'm not a free bitch. Of course not. Okay. I'm not a free bitch.
Okay, Clarkson, take it away.
We had some mic issues before, so my camera wasn't going to be in there. But Blossom, one thing I wanted to ask you about, and I don't know if you're familiar with this situation. Do you know who Drew Afualo is?
Who?
Drew Afualo on TikTok. She's a big TikToker.
I do not.
Did you hear about any of the drama that was going on TikTok about a non-binary person saying something about how trans women have a better experience of womanhood than women? We have the clip. If not, it's okay.
No, I actually have not.
Okay,
Please
so
play
I
it.
want to roll this clip. There's a lot of discourse happening on TikTok about this.
Okay.
And I want to know your opinion on this. As a trans woman, I want to know if you think that some of this was in poor taste, if you agree with the clip, maybe you disagree with it. And if we
Okay.
disagree, we can debate it, or we can just talk about some of the problems with it.
Okay.
Trans women have a more beautiful understanding what womanhood is.
I agree.
I think that unfortunately the programming for cis women it's kind of sad sometimes.
Yeah, it is.
And
yeah.
I'm like, actually, no, your womanhood is not your role.
Mm-hmm.
Your womanhood is not your status in society. And your womanhood is not your ability to be sexually assaulted.
Yeah.
And this trans debate that's like centering all on, well, like if a quote unquote man in a dress is in a bathroom, he will rape me. I'm like, okay, well, then it sounds like the problem that we have is that men are going to and women are fearing their whole lives.
Right.
And when you talk to trans women about their womanhood, they talk about it, like almost gets me choked up. They talk about it in such this like beautiful, expansive way.
Yeah.
Of like, it's this feeling I always had.
Yeah.
You know, it's this truth I've always known. It's the most beautiful parts of me. It's my softest self. And I don't feel that from cis women right now because I think the propaganda is so strong.
I agree.
So do you know who Drew is? Does she look familiar?
No, I've never seen her.
Dang, you must not be online.
No, I don't really be paying attention to TikTok like that. I'm not the biggest TikToker.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. So this
Yeah.
is like really big on TikTok. And
Okay.
just let me know what you thought about that clip, first impression, and then I'll ask you some questions on it. 'Cause
Yeah, I think
the girl
go ahead,
talking
go ahead.
was not trans. She was non-binary. So there was no
Got it.
trans person present.
Got it. I would actually have to agree with her. I think I understand exactly what she's saying. I think that she's talking about the beautiful essence of what a trans woman identifies as and how she lives her lives. Like the way that we describe our experience of moving into womanhood, it's just a beautiful, enlightening experience. And I do think that she's correct that because of a lot of the propaganda against trans women that has kind of moved into the cis women community, it kind of has tarnished them in a way that makes them feel unsafe and it makes them feel like uncomfortable. And so I definitely understood what she was saying. And I think it's important to talk about like men going into the bathroom and raping and women in dresses. You know, that particular conversation is around cis men. You don't see trans women going in the bathroom and causing harm to cis women. Typically, when a cis woman goes in the bathroom, she may not even know that she's using the bathroom with a trans woman. And
I
I think we
so
agree.
both actually
I
agree.
think,
Yeah, we do
and
agree on
yeah,
that.
oh, perfect, perfect. And I just think that because people, and I like to see, I always say this on the conservative side, they typically try to loop trans women in with cis men by saying that trans women are men. No, the whole conversation has been about cis men going into the bathroom, causing harm to cis women, and then trying to throw up this whole trans narrative that is not true and that is not indicative of that. And that's just
Yeah,
to be clear.
I think the
Um,
bathroom issue we actually might have more common ground on. And you keep
mm,
saying conservative, but I voted for Kamala Harris, so let's relax on
yeah.
that a bit. Um,
Well, no,
but
but here's a no, but I say conservative because that typically is the talking point, a conservative talking point.
yeah,
I didn't necessarily say that you gave that talking
okay.
point.
Well, you
I'm
said it
necessarily
earlier, so
saying
I just want to make it
conservative.
clear. Um,
Yeah. Well, you
but
oh,
no,
but you mean hold on, because you know, and I'm gonna get you later because you called me a caricature in one of those other videos. So don't think
bitch,
I
don't
forgot you, Clarence.
Blossom. Do not act like you are not a character. All right, we're all characters when
No,
we're on social
caricature.
media.
No, a caricature
A
is Buck
caricature.
Angel. A caricature is Buck Angel
Yes.
in his porn career. And respectfully, his porn career, in my humble
We
opinion,
support him.
when he was
Don't
going
you
around saying
slut
that,
shame him.
hold on, I'm not slut shaming him,
Let her
but
talk. Let her talk.
when he was going around saying that he was a man with a vagina, a man with a pussy, that is a
Isn't that true?
caricature.
Well, that
He
is
is.
true though. Okay, so here's the biggest thing, and we're gonna get back to the Drew Afualo clip, and
Yeah.
I think this is the biggest disconnect between our two ideas, is that you believe that gender identity and sex are separate. Yes.
Yes.
So what I've noticed a lot in this conversation is when we try to have conversations about sex and we say you are a male or Blaire White is a male, it always gets redirected to no, we're women and redirected to a conversation on gender identity. But I feel like that takes away from the real conversations we need to have about a separation of the sexes. And I think that that's where this Drew Afualo clip has caused a lot of controversy because if you notice at the beginning, she specifically said that trans women have a better or more
More beautiful.
beautiful perspective of womanhood than biological women. And I just want to know if you think that's true, if you think that womanhood is better in the eyes of someone who was born a male, or do you think
No.
just expand on that?
Okay, y'all are not listening because I made it very clear earlier. Being trans does not have anything to do with biological sex. If there was not an
We
incongruency
agree.
within someone's biological sex, then they would be cisgender, period. That's why the focus has to be specifically more on gender identity. But the thing about it, Carson, you literally just took it back to biological sex and you think that you're gonna have some gotcha moments in
No, this isn't a
biological
gotcha
sex.
moment.
No, it's not gonna work like that. I'm not trying to say that to be mean or nasty or whatnot like that. I'm just being for real. You're not gonna get those deep rooted um talking points out of biological sex when we're talking about trans women. You have to talk about gender identity. That
And you
has
also
to
have
be
to
the
talk about
point.
biological sex. Why do
But
we not
we
get
can
to
talk
talk about biological sex, but we get to talk about gender identity?
but we can talk about if you want to talk about the incongruency of biological sex, which is what
Well, no, there's
equals being
different. It's
trans
not just
is,
that. There's
then that we can talk about
eh,
that then. But if you really want to whine and talk about that, we could do that, honey. That's
no,
not
no,
the
no, 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 no.
problem.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm talking about the experiences of growing up as a different sex prior to transition and
Right.
the perspective of life that you have, which is very different than someone who is born a biological woman. And that's what this clip is referring to, is your perspective of womanhood more beautiful than a biological woman's perspective? given that it's been a feeling that you chose and it's something that you now get to explore, et cetera, et cetera. Is that what you believe? Do you agree with the clip?
I honestly can't compare my experience to somebody else's beauty. Like, my experience has definitely been beautiful, and I'm grateful for it. It's also had a lot of challenges and obstacles along the
Hmm.
way. I can't sit up there and compare my experience as a trans woman to someone else's experience as a woman. I can't do that. And the thing is, that's where, and respectfully, I kind of have to draw the line there because ultimately, we have issues that conjoin each other, that intersect with each
Hmm.
other. You know what I mean? We are a lot more
Absolutely. Yeah. If you're
alike and a
perceived as
lot
a woman, you're going to be treated like one.
absolutely. We have a lot more in common than what people think. And so for me, it's kind of hard to compare my life experience to somebody else's. It has been a challenge discovering who I was. Nobody wants to
Yeah.
talk about the discovery of being trans, finding out that you are trans, and going through the things that you have to go through. Nobody talks about that. And so for me, I just don't think it's fair for me to sit up here and say, "Oh, I had such a lighthearted experience," and demonize a cis woman's like experience because I don't know what that is. I just think that going back to this whole thing around propaganda, conservative propaganda, mainly since Trump has been in office, trans women has been a spotlight issue that has
Hmm.
seeped into communities that we never would have thought they would have seeped into. You know what I mean? Like, we're talking about trans
No,
women
I
playing in
agree.
sports. We're
And you're
playing.
actually saying everything that we said they should have said on the podcast, which is
Mhm.
that trans women, which we believe are a subcategory of men that deserve respect, gender dysphoria deserves to be treated. I treat you no differently than anybody else. We just disagree on classifying you man or woman. But I think the difference here was that a lot of biological women were very offended by that clip because essentially what they're doing is saying that my experience is better than yours. And there's so much involved with being born as a woman that I feel like a lot of times biological women feel like their struggle is being dismissed in the eyes of the trans struggle. So you actually, I feel like you gave a great answer on that, and we don't
Thank
disagree at
you.
all. When it comes to the Trump stuff, now, I actually agree. It's weird. I'm like agreeing with you more than I thought I would. I
Oh.
do think that the trans stuff is overblown. And I say that many times on this podcast. It's very insignificant when it comes to the problems that are facing our country. The things that the conservatives are saying about trans stuff many times are wrong, but also many times they're right. And we'll disagree on the women's sports issue. We'll disagree on the women's prison thing. And I think that's where the left goes wrong is that they're fighting over these issues that the right actually has correct. But I do think it's overblown.
I
And I
disagree.
will
I
not,
disagree with that.
I won't negate that point that you made.
Yeah, I disagree with that. I think folks on the right are trying to propagandize and grift off the whole subject of being trans because if you're not a trans person, if you don't live that experience, why the hell are you talking about it? To make
Well,
money
because it
and to
affects
grift.
all of us.
But how do trans women affect you, Clarkson? How? Tell me how.
Well, LGBT is in the same acronym as gay people. So if we're talking about me personally, when I tell people I'm gay and then we have a non-binary person saying they're, frog self on TikTok, while that may be something that's so insignificant and I don't want to talk about it, the reputation of gay people does involve me. So I feel like I have a right to talk about it, no?
No, here's the thing. It's not just LGBT, it's also IA dot dot dot. There are a lot more
Yeah,
identities
and
within
LMNOP and
LGBTQ.
everything else that we're gonna add,
But
whoever
see,
feels
but
like they
see,
wanna create a new identity.
But see, when you have that kind of attitude, this makes this conversation a little skewed. You see what I'm saying? And the reason why I say this is because the thing about it is being non-binary has its own thing. And for me, there are some non-binary people who I do identify as trans, and there are some non-binary people that don't. And so I do think that is a very nuanced conversation, and everybody's experience is different, to be quite honest with you. And sometimes it is hard to try to understand each other when new things are popping out, the terminology is evolving. And let's be clear, folks don't want to do that work to learn. And I think that's the problem. Being
Blossom,
trans,
is
me
there
being a trans woman, hold on just a second. Me being trans, because you brought up an interesting point, because you said LGBT first and then you said something about gay people. You are a gay white
Mm-hmm.
cis man. So you sit
Mm-hmm.
at the top of the hierarchy in the LGBT community. You sit at the top of the hierarchies, honey.
Damn
And if I'm
straight,
not
bitch.
mistaken, bitch, then you go and have gender affirming care. Then you make a
Oh,
TikTok
yes, I
video
do.
Read
and
him.
have gender affirming care. So this is my issue then. If you wouldn't have gender affirming care because it changed your life and it helped your life and improve your quality of life, why can't trans men do it? Why can't trans men
Why?
improve
When
their
when did I
quality of
ever
life?
say that trans men can't do it?
Well, that's what's going around on TikTok. The thing is, what I'm trying to say is you benefit from gender affirming care the same way trans people
Well,
benefit
no,
from
because
gender
my gender
affirming
doesn't
care.
require affirmation. Getting a hair transplant is not gender affirming
Or is this your
because
boobs?
hold
And
on. Um,
go ahead,
Hold on.
explain.
No, I want to push back on this because I don't agree that anybody getting plastic surgery is gender affirmation. Because if you don't have gender dysphoria, your gender doesn't require affirmation. It just is. And I think that devalues what gender affirming care actually provides for trans people by labeling plastic surgery for anybody gender affirming care. Also, a hair transplant, men naturally lose their hair. If my gender needed affirmation, I would have let myself go bald. So that's
Hold
not
on a
the
second,
whole
Clarkson.
idea of gender affirming care goes out the door when you actually examine it logically speaking.
So here's the thing. I think there is a difference between plastic surgery, gender affirming care, all the things or whatever. But didn't you get something done with your chest, if I'm not mistaken?
Yes, because I had a growth that could have been cancerous that I needed to get taken out.
Okay, so you had to have gender affirming care. That's literally the
No, it
same
didn't affirm
thing
my
of what it
gender.
is.
It made sure I was healthy.
It is gender affirming care. Well, here's the thing though.
Just because it had to
If
do with
if
tits,
you
would
took
you
it,
call a
if you
double
hold on
mastectomy?
a second.
Okay.
If you had to take out something that was almost cancerous, as you said, or whatnot, did the doctor ever say that your gender had anything to do with it, your chance, your risk level of getting something that is cancerous because you are male and because you are a white
Wait, no,
man?
hold on. I thought gender and
No, no,
sex
no,
were
no, 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 no,
separate.
no,
So
no.
why would my doctor be talking about my
Answer that
gender identity?
Answer that question first, because the thing is, there are risk factors to anything that is cancerous. And sometimes it does include your race, your age, how you
Not your
live your
gender
life.
identity, though. It has to do
Yes,
with biology. So are we having a sex
well,
conversation
here's the
or a gender
thing.
one?
Well, here's the thing, though. I think that the science is catching up to gender identity because we have things going on with us that we have to be mindful of as well, too. So I do think that it encompasses all of those things. When I'm trying to bring up this point, I'm trying to bring up a point to you. And I want you to catch the overall picture because I'm not trying to
I'm
tear you
listening.
down for I'm not trying to tear you down for having those procedures done. The thing is, you're not
No, I look
villainized.
good now. I'm happy with him.
I get that, but here's the thing though, you're not villainized for having those procedures the way that trans people are. You're not villainized the way that trans youth
You're
are able
villainizing me
to
right now.
be able to experience their gender. You're not villainized the same way in society. That is what I'm trying to get you to understand. You can freely go get that surgery, that plastic surgery, that hair transplant, whatever it is you want to go get, and you can walk around fine. But then when trans people do it, because there are some trans people who have gotten hair plants, they've gotten chin plants, they've
Mhm.
gotten all the things. Y'all want to vilify us and say that we can't have ours, but y'all can have y'all's. Clarkson, you know doggone well that's not right. That's not fair.
But
And
we
you as
don't
a
do
white
that.
But
cis man,
yes, I agree.
you as a white cis man sit at the top of the
Okay.
hierarchy in the LGBTQ plus community,
Keep
benefiting
telling me
from
how
the girls
high I
like
sit on
us,
this hierarchy,
benefiting
bitch.
off
Come
the
on.
back, bitch, benefiting off the back of black trans women like myself, which is why I'm here.
Oh,
And
come
so the
on.
thing is, and so the
You trying
thing
to take
is,
credit for my beauty and success, Blossom?
well, here's the thing though, because I'm not attacking any of those things. I'm not attacking any of those things. And it's a privilege for you to be able to have access to those things. For us, it's a
Absolutely.
whole different situation. We have to go through insurance. Sometimes they deny us. Sometimes we have to go do
Well,
sex
I had
work
to pay for mine
for that
outright.
stuff. Like we have to do sex work sometimes, and we putting ourselves in a line of fire, putting our bodies in a line of fire. Like there are so many things that we go through as trans and non-binary people. And back to the original subject, I do think that this non-binary person had a great point. Um, and talking, because you got to remember, we all have different experiences and we all interact with different people. And so I think for me, her whole saying was pretty much dealing with the people that she's interacted with. You know what I'm saying? And so that's just her whole analysis of the thing. But I do agree with her.
Okay.
There's one other thing
And
I want to say.
and that's
for it.
that.
Then I'll move us
The
along.
only okay, so we kind of found some common ground on that. The only
Okay.
other thing that I want to say, which may actually be more, it's just more of something I want to mention to stick up for trans people, and something that you said that I think is actually harmful for trans people, which I don't think you even realize. When you classify and have a loose definition of gender affirming care, you mentioned insurance, right? When I get plastic surgery, that's not covered by insurance. If we start classifying everything as gender affirming care, what's going to happen is trans people are going to start losing their coverage for gender affirming care because
already
we have
happening.
made it such a broad definition that insurance is not going to cover my hair transplant. So if you want to call that gender affirming care, then why did I have to pay for it outright, whereas trans people get it covered? Does that
Did you
make
just
sense?
hear what
So
you
I
just
think
said?
that there's some issues
Did
with
you
that.
just hear what you just said, though? You practically admitted that you benefit behind the back of trans people and being able to get that gender affirming care. You literally just
But it's
kind of
not
said
gender
that in a
affirming care.
way.
That's the point.
But the
The
thing
point I'm
is,
saying is
though,
that it's not gender affirming care, and
if
it's
it's in,
dangerous to label it as such.
it is affirming care to you because you had something that could potentially have
Affirming
been
care is very different
cancerous.
than gender affirming
Hold
care,
on a second.
Blossom.
Hold on a second. Let me finish. You had something
Go
potentially
ahead.
that was cancerous in your body. Okay? That was something very serious, and you took the steps to take that out of your body. So you are affirming that you're healthier now, right?
Yes, affirmation is not the same as gender
Boom.
affirmation, though. Are
It
you
doesn't matter
classifying
though.
every medical procedure as gender affirmation?
It is still affirmation. That is the point I'm trying to get you. I need you to rise with me, Clarkson. Raise your
I'm trying
vibration to get
to,
up.
but
Raise your
listen, baby,
vibration to
I'm
get to the
trying to rise, but I
goddess.
can't rise to delusion. This doesn't make any
No,
sense.
no, it's not. It's a delusion to you because you're not woke and you're not ready to accept that truth
I mean,
about
true.
yourself, that you got gender affirming care. You're not ready to
Okay.
accept that about yourself.
Let's move
And that's
on.
We're going to move
okay.
on from this. We're never going to agree on
But
this
that's
specific
okay.
subject, but I'm glad we found some common ground on some other stuff.
Yeah. And
Okay.
I don't hate you, Clarkson. So let's just keep it very
I don't
clear
hate you
before
either,
We
y'all
love
Blossom.
you.
I don't have no problem with nobody here. We can have these open discussions. And so I'm just letting y'all know that.
Okay. So our next question for you, Blossom, is what is your sexuality?
First of all, I'm pansexual, but here's the thing though. Why y'all want to know all this information?
Because we want to know
What's the-
you. This is an interview.
We're trying to get to know you.
Please.
And you're all
I
about
thought y'all wanted-
LGBTQ.
I thought y'all wanted to debate. What
No,
does
the
me
debate,
being
the
pansexual
debate
have to do
section's
with that?
over. We're done debating now.
Child, honey,
Well, pansexual. How is
that's
that
what I
different from
said.
bisexual? Just spicy bi?
Go read a book, Brad. I'm not about to do all that work. Y'all got me
But
totally
so,
confused. I'm not about to
the
do all that work.
question-
Y'all are asking me basic level questions. Y'all paid for me to be here, number one. So y'all need to spice it up and give me some real shit to talk about.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's
So
go.
here's my question. That means that we're on the table. How would you rate us both 0 out of 10?
What do you mean as far as what?
Attractiveness.
Brad's looking for an ego boost, I think. Or you can
Well,
destroy his ego.
Neither one of
Like
y'all are my
0 would be
type.
we're ugly and 10 would be we're hot. Each of us, what would you rate us?
Listen, first of all, I'm not superficial. I don't go by looks. Like
Good for you.
I don't even do any of that or whatnot. It sounds like you have a self-esteem issue, Brad. You need to go to therapy, honey. But you need to work through that, Brad, in therapy, because I am not your therapist, honey. I am a powerhouse goddess, and don't y'all forget
Mhm.
it. I'm not superficial, y'all. I think everybody is beautiful in their different unique way. I try my best to hear people who have a different perspective and different opinion than I do, but I don't think you're ugly. Like, I don't go around calling people ugly. Now, y'all's friend has called me ugly before.
Who?
Y'all's friend y'all think is a man. Y'all going around claiming is a man.
Blaire.
Yeah, Blaire Crusty Lip White is the one that I'm talking about. Okay, so let's just be clear. And
Okay, let me ask you about Blaire.
anything that I say on this podcast is my opinion, and can't nobody take that away from me.
That's right. You have every right
Wait.
to say your opinion,
I want to. Okay, go ahead. You go ahead.
but you don't want to rate us out of 10. That's fine. You
No,
don't
but
have
I
to.
want to know because I want to get out of the debate stuff. Like, I want to know what it's like dating for you, and like I guess you said you don't really have a type, but like there's always some type of underlying type. You know what I mean? Like, are you single right now? What's going on in your personal life? We want to deep dive.
Oh my gosh, y'all are so nosy. I'm not about to give all y'all that tea.
Why?
No,
For
because I'm a goddess.
$2,500? Come on, you got to give us something.
Hey, Black trans women. No, for real. No, for real though. Right now, I'm single. I have no problem
We have a
issuing that. You have a what?
We have a
Shut
chance.
up, Brad.
All right.
Honey, let me tell you something. You see all this divine goodness and greatness. You see all this, honey.
Yes.
You could never stand a chance at this. You see,
Break his
I
back.
agree,
bitch.
actually. That's a ride I wouldn't survive.
No. For right now, I'm single and I'm working on myself, doing the work on myself. I have certain standards when it comes to like dating, and that's something that I've just kind of like experienced just navigating or whatnot. Because navigating as a trans person and dating is already kind of like hard work. For
Yeah.
me, it's been an interesting experience. I've had to do a lot of deep dive work and evolving. Hence why I'm here today. So like yeah, it's just very interesting, but whoever's meant to be with me will come to me when the time is right. I'm not tripping. I'm not trying to pursue or chase. I don't do any of that. I attract, honey. I am an abundance of manifestation, so I don't even worry about any of
Preach.
that.
You're in
But
the
I do
Empress
think
energy, huh?
absolutely. And I love
There
that
we
you said
go.
that. Absolutely.
Okay.